So this attic storage unit, we've built it with face frames rather than fully enclosed carcasses. This allows us to bring up parts that are manageable and to keep it as a one-man fit. So that's something that I'm trying to do more of now. It also is a bit better suited to this kind of eaves storage arrangement, where making a unit to fit that shape with the angled back would seem to be a bit overkill and unnecessary, unless that's what the customer wants and they want that really pristine interior. The other reason was the limited depth. So if we'd made it with our 18mm back panels, a bit of tolerance to the back of the wall in case it's out of plumb, then we'd be losing that depth. So we've only got about 50 centimetres left with this arrangement, and I usually like to give nearer 60 for hanging, for the depth of hangers and the bulk of the clothes that hang on them. So that's the method we've gone for. It's 18mm thick by 90mm birch plywood for these frames. Birch ply because it's that bit more rigid than MDF, so that's really like the structure of the thing. So they've been screwed together and levelled with bits of carpet cut out so that everything's pushing down onto solid floor, and a mixture of packers and legs. That leg in the middle doesn't do a great deal, but just gives a bit of resistance if someone was to step on that strip there. So once the frame's gone in, I've individually cut shelves to fit. Now I'm sure there'll be people watching and thinking, well, that's not the tightest of scribes there. I just reckon it doesn't matter a great deal when this is going to be packed full of clothes. The perfect, fully corked and painted scribes are going to be on the exterior. So that's just a choice I made. I mean, some people might disagree with that, but you're always trying to balance cost and finish and efficiency, and I reckon it's better for all concerned if a job like this is all done and dusted in a day, because my workshop is the bedroom, so that's quite inconvenient. So, I mean, I'd say it's a good fit, but the full finish is going to be on the outside. The shelves and dividers, by the way, are MDF. It's all spray painted. I gave the customer the choice of white melamine for the internals, but they preferred the fully painted look, which does look good. And the doors, which you'll see, are the ones that Brady was finishing off making in one of the recent videos. He was denibbing them, and he told us a little bit about how he puts them together. This method of scribing this top strip in. Now, if you're on Instagram, you've probably come across these U-scribe jigs. If you haven't seen them, then they're a very clever, very simple way of getting an accurate scribe. So what I'm trying to do is fill this gap so that it's going to be an inset scribe which pushes into that space there. Of course, that's going to vary a little bit with the ceiling space. These can be used in various different arrangements, but this is a pretty good example of pretty standard use. So really what they do is they sit snugly over 18mm boards, and they hold the scribe tight to the top line of that board. You can see I've put some screws there in the material that will end up being the wastage. So they're just positioning it for me in a position that is parallel but offset from where it wants to be. So what I do now is I know that this face, when it's fitted, wants to be effectively where the top face is. So I just want to figure out what's the scribe I'm taking off, and of course it is the full width of the material really, because I'm just wanting to move that from there up to the gap. So I now need to set some kind of a scribing tool to that gap. And I've got two options. One is the Easy Scribe, which is quite good for this sort of purpose because it has this thing that sticks out which you can just tuck against your surface and passes over the U-scribe jig. I'm going to struggle with this, it's just occurred to me now. So this would be another option because this will place my marking tool further away from the point that I'm referencing. This one only goes up to 40 millimeters, so I can just wind that out. There's a little pencil lead in there. Wind that out and I would be using it roughly like this. Now I do have a bit of an issue because that won't go big enough, but that, because the pencil sticks out there, the thing that I'd have to scribe off isn't going to touch where I need it to touch. I must admit I hadn't quite thought this through before getting the video going. So let's just see how we can figure this out. It's typical problem solving for an on-site joiner. Here's an option. Maybe I put just another piece in until I can get to that height. Or we do it like that, but with this one. I think that's what's going to work. Good thing about this jig is you can just take that out, swap it over, which lets you get the pencil nearer to where you want it to be. This jig's called the Profiler scribing tool. So you've got either a nice ball bearing that just runs smoothly, or a fine point that gives you more detail. So what I really need to do is, I want to remove effectively the thickness of the material measured from the surface that it wants to fill against. So it was 56 with some scribing allowance. That is where I need to mark it to cut off. Right. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, so I'm thinking, just guide that along. That's going to give me my contour. Okay, well that video could have been planned a bit better. That just goes to show, I suppose, that scribes can come in all shapes and sizes, and there is no one tool or method that will do the job. And I really very often just revert to cutting it with a degree of judgment near enough to size and offering it up and back and forth until it goes in. So that's pretty much what I did in the end. You see here we've also got a bit of a curve, so the front edge of this funny shaped projection is perhaps a little bit higher than the point at which the scribe had to go into. So it wasn't an easy one, but that's how it is with fitting these kind of things. I have corked it and I will put some paint along it so it'll blend in nicely when it's all done. Now, just to give you an idea of how I fit this end panel, which does have to be scribed tight and corked, I've given myself some marks for reference points from the back edge. So top of the skirting, I've levelled it, and that's, once I've levelled it, that's given me this mark. I've done the same for this corner, brought it across to level so I can plot it to there. So with reference to that, I've then plotted points. So I've measured from the back wall with the tape measure and transferred them to the panel, which has been cut about 20 millimeters oversize and pre-sprayed. So I've then plotted back my measurements from the front edge to the wall plus 22, because I want it to project 22 millimeters here to cover the edge of the doors there, because I think that'll look better, and it covers also then the skirting or the plinth fascia. So I plotted all those marks with some accuracy, I think. I'd already checked that the floor is near enough to level. Done the same sort of thing at the top. It's an element of estimating how the slope just kicked up a bit there. So I'm pretty sure once I cut that, it's going to fit tight, and there should just be a little bit of trimming to do once I offer it up to bring it really tight. Now that the whole assembly is built, it's just time for the doors. So I've unwrapped these. We brought them up in, well, I brought them up in 2 doors wrapped as a pair with some new bubble wrap. These ones have not been CNC made. These were assembled by Brady with a grooved panel and domino joints, and he's test fitted them in the workshop to get the gaps right, to save me time on site. So I'm just figuring out his labelling actually. So C means the 3rd unit, ABC. L means it's the left door, and just to confirm that, T for top, so it'll be on the left of that far unit, which obviously means that T is at the top. So I'm going to snap off the hinges, because these have remained on, or if I've taken them off, I've put them back where they started. So I just need to remember that's the top one, middle and bottom. Actually, I know where the middle one is. The middle one's over here. So I now just need to put them in the same order. That was the bottom one. And we've got the Blum soft close hinges for top and bottom, but you usually don't need it on this size of door for the middle. You still get the soft close effect just with the 2. Before I pop this final door on, I thought I'd point out that we've used 3mm mounting plates here. I've referred to this in the past with long runs of doors like this, because they're sized 2mm undersize versus the unit for 4mm door gaps. That actually looks a bit wide in practice, so we often squeeze those gaps in, but we find ourselves getting to the maximum adjustment on the hinge at the far end. So I'm talking about this screw here. You turn that and it moves the hinge that way. So to close the gaps, we're wanting to move the hinge on that plate that way, but you get to as far as it will go, so then you can just bump it a bit further by replacing what's called a 0 height hinge, which would be shorter on this projection, with what's called a 3mm height, not hinge, mounting plate. So that just throws it out a bit further, and because there's no gap there, that's just an inset scribe. It doesn't look wrong. You don't want to do it here because you want to keep the gap there roughly the same to the side panel as it will be to the doors. So I'll be adjusting all these in and getting that line at the top just right with the hinge adjustment after this, and then handles on and we're just about done. Thanks for watching. If this has helped you in any way, do consider going to buymeacoffee.com/freebird, where you can make a small and easy donation to help support the channel and to ensure that I can keep providing useful content. All feedback's welcome. Do comment in the comments below. Thanks again. Bye for now.